An entitled cheating scumbag begs me not to expose his secret after he gets caught trying to cheat on his wife with my mom by lying and saying that he was single. But after the way he treated my mom and tricked her, I decided to get some revenge. And as a result, I exposed him for the cheating scumbag that he is and effectively ruined his marriage. Here's what happened. Okay, this event took place before the pandemic. I had worked at this job for at least 6 years before I left its toxic environment. Yet I got along with just about all of my coworkers. I also, won't lie, live with my mom, which I only say this because of a couple of things. My stepdad passed away from lung cancer in 2018, and he passed away 7 months after he was diagnosed. And in 2019, she and I got the house that we currently live in. Now, when this event took place, I worked nights at my job at the time. I would normally be home around 6 a.m. due to not driving at the time, and it was too cold for me to use my e-bike, so I would get rides from coworkers or just bike itself depending on the weather. As a side note, this is also Canada, so it can get really cold, and my asthma makes it hard for me to bike in cold weather. This was my day off, so I was hoping to just relax and just get some sleep, even though that wasn't meant to happen, as I was woken up by some sound above me. I live in the basement at my house, as it is a finished basement and my bedroom is under the living room of the house, but I just chalked it up to my mom watching something on TV. So I get out of the bed to go grab my mom's bedding that was in the dryer. As I was getting up the stairs and opened the door, that was when I saw the dog. Now, here's another thing I should point out. The dog, whose name is Buddy, was my stepdad's dog, and he would call Buddy his furry son. This dog kept my mom sane when my stepdad passed away and was always comforted by this dog in everything that came into her life. Now, it was very strange for me to see this dog in the kitchen instead of the living room or my mom's room. He was practically glued to my mom's side. So I asked him, "What are you doing out here, Buddy?" Buddy was just wagging his tail at me. So I go toward the living room door and I saw that the door was shut. Again, that confuses me, so I just mentally shrug and I open the door. I start to tell my mom that I'm bringing up her bedding, but I stopped when I see a very familiar face on the couch with my mom. My mom looks at me in surprise and tries to tell me who this is, but I say to her, "I know who he is, Mom." And when I said that, it wasn't clicking in for me what was going on, because again, I just woke up from doing a closing shift, and I really did not get a lot of sleep. She says to me, "How do you know him?" At this point, this guy's eyes are wide since I walked into the living room, but I just say, "Well, I work with his wife." At this point, Mom is sitting in a state of confusion and kind of leans back a little while looking at the man. She then asks the guy, "This is your ex-wife, right?" And she seemed a little skeptical. Before he could even answer, I said, "No, it's his current wife." And then I said the coworker's name. Now, my mom, of course, is in shock. And again, I don't clue in as to what was going on. They're just talking as I walk further into the living room with her bedding and I set it on a chair. I pet Buddy and I make sure he goes outside to do his thing, and then I go back to my living room in the basement. Well, the guy was kicked out a while later, though beforehand, he had begged my mom to tell me not to tell his wife about this because she is very possessive. So for months, I kept my mouth shut. Though that wasn't the only thing she told me. She had told me that the reason why Buddy was kept out of the living room was because the moment that that guy walked into the house, Buddy growled at him. And for the sake of the story, we'll call him Jay. Jay is not his real name. And trust me, Buddy loves everybody. So for him to growl at someone was a big red flag. That alone shocked me when my mom told me this. Well, that, on top of the fact that it turns out that Jay also knew my mom's cousin and her cousin's husband. They went to high school together, and we only found that out when my mom mentioned that was part of their conversation before I came up the stairs. When mom also told me that he was there because they met on Tinder and that this was a date, oh how I wish that I knew sooner. I would have kicked his butt out the door myself, because if there's one thing I hated, it will always be cheaters. My mom had been cheated on before, and she hates them, so she was thankful that I came up when I did. Now, there's more to this story, because as I said, I had kept my mouth shut for months on not telling my coworker. Let's call her Leslie. As we worked, I heard her saying that she was being kicked out of her townhouse. Now, I was confused and I asked what happened. Leslie told some of us that Jay tried to overdose, and she had managed to get him help in time to save him. So she pretty much saved his life, and he tries to repay her by trying to get her kicked out of the house. So when I heard that, I'm just saying to myself, okay, screw this, no repercussions. Then I told her everything that happened. How he met my mom, to him being at my house, to when I came up. I mean, I literally told her everything. When I was done, she just stared at me, a mix of shock and anger. It turns out Jay cheated on her throughout their entire marriage, even though they have 5 kids, her oldest being in her 20s or 30s. Also, he was the possessive one, not Leslie. Whenever they separated, he was always allowed to see other people, but not her, and he definitely made sure of that. Once she had everything I told her, she had had finally been pushed because of what I told her, that it all seemed that it was far worse than what he's done in the past, and their marriage was toxic from what I learned later on. Not just with destroying her property such as her phone, but he also hacked into her Facebook to make posts themselves. I don't know all the details, but what I do know is that there is now a restraining order against him. He even tried to tear her down by saying that no man would ever want her because she was used and old. Now, mind you, she isn't old. She's still young and has a lot of life left in her. Then he told her that she's too old to get a union job, but she proved him wrong on all accounts. She got herself a good man, got a good paying job now, and she even lost some weight. She's doing a fantastic job living her life right now. But there was one thing that I had asked her after I told her everything. I said to her, "Leslie, you said that I look like my mom, right?" She said to me, "Yes, you do." Now, for reference, I had posted pictures of me and my mom from my mom's Facebook page that came from my mom's 50th birthday, and Leslie had commented just how much my mom and I look alike, and I'm basically her clone to say the least. Her husband had met me many times in the past because he would sometimes bring Leslie coffee or bring her the debit card that she might have forgot. So I asked her, "How is it that your husband didn't even notice how much I look like my mom when he met her?" Well, what she said next honestly made me smile. She said straight up, "Well, because he's an idiot," and I laughed a little at that. Even their son, who also worked with us, told me that his dad isn't that smart or even that bright, so you can tell that it had to be true if his own now ex-wife and son tell me the same thing. When I had even told Leslie how he knew my mom's cousin and her husband, Leslie had told me that it was most likely that he would have tried to get lucky with her as well, though that wasn't going to happen anyways, because my mom's cousin is still very much in love with her husband, and they are high school sweethearts. So this guy tried to get lucky only to then ruin his marriage, which is honestly just karma at its finest. But I still wish that I had said something sooner, I won't lie. That is my biggest regret with all of this, but I'm at least happy that she got out of that toxic marriage, and hopefully she never has to deal with him ever again. Yeah, that guy's a massive jerk. Literally, he tried to be like, "Oh, please don't tell my wife that I'm cheating on her." Like, that is so unbelievably ridiculous, and there's like no way I'm gonna listen to that. I also feel so bad for the original poster's mom, because here they thought they were getting with someone who was single and that they would have some kind of like solid relationship with. So to find out that way by the original poster, while the guy is literally on your couch, like, that is devastating. So sure, I totally understand why you feel like you should have said something sooner, but at the end of the day, it did all work out, because in the end, the truth came out and exposed this guy for the jerk that he is. And that, in my opinion, is the best part about this entire story. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My manager denies my time off despite the fact that I'm pregnant, claiming that I still need to work at the office, even though I was afraid of going into labor at the office. And I'm honestly so sick of my boss, and I now don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I'm a 31-year-old female, and I was 1 week away from my due date and was working full-time in a school administration position. At this time, I had the capability to work from home if needed, and when I accepted the position prior to my pregnancy, I was told by my boss, we'll call them Ronnie, that's not their real name, that it was very flexible as long as I got my hours in. I very rarely work from home, and typically only did so for an hour or two in the morning if it was needed later on in order to get to work before my OB/GYN appointments, as it was a long commute between work and home and the doctor's office. However, I was told by Ronnie after accepting the position to try and limit my work from home to 2 days a month, which is fine. At this point, I was well under, since I was only working an hour or two, maybe twice a month, and only once a month before that. Now, being so close to my due date, I was experiencing physical hardships that made working on site more and more difficult, such as dizzy spells, a pulled tendon in my foot, and severe back pain. I was also scared of potentially going into labor while at work, with it being so far away from the hospital that my doctor delivers at. To top it all off, my coworkers started asking more invasive questions about my pregnancy that made me very uncomfortable. So all in all, it was not a fun time. I explained all of this in an email to Ronnie and asked for her permission to almost exclusively work from home up until I go into labor. I said that I thought it would be a reasonable accommodation and I work really well from home. Ronnie responded a couple days later denying my request to work from home at all and said that I needed to be there since we would be starting some of our busiest work in a couple of months, which I would be gone for on maternity leave anyways, so I'm not sure why she brought it up, but I could talk to HR about leave options if I am truly having trouble working. By the way, it is illegal in my state to require an employee to take leave if there's a reasonable accommodation solution that can be made instead. So at this point, I decided to maliciously comply. I immediately went to HR and I did just that. We talked about options and found out that I could start my leave the very next day and still be paid the state mandatory leave pay for the extra time. I informed Ronnie that I would be out starting the next day as I needed to take care of myself. She then said to me, "I understand you need to do what's best for you, but you need to understand that I need to do what's best for the team." So yeah, everything I normally manage basically went to crap in my absence, as the other people on my team weren't qualified to do the work and kept taking time off leading up to my due date instead of learning the basics while I was there to teach them. I mean, I left detailed procedure notes and workflow lists, but I later found out Ronnie had to pick up all the extra work and a lot of it never got done since she didn't have time. But regardless of what Ronnie thought, I'm so glad that I got my time off. Yeah, your boss was being super obnoxious. They weren't trying to do what's best for the team, they were just trying to do what was best for them. They knew they were not going to train anybody to cover your responsibilities, so they knew that if you weren't working, they would have to pick up the slack, which is really frustrating for you because Ronnie could have easily cross-trained someone, and instead of going through with that, they decided to be lazy. And that, in my opinion, is not your fault in the slightest. Am I the jerk for not offering support to my dad's wife after she was the reason why my dad's original marriage fell apart? Because right now, she and everybody else is super upset with me, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my dad's wife found out 6 weeks ago that he's been cheating on her for years. They have 3 kids together, and she had no idea that he was cheating. His wife, who I'll call Anne for this post, was my dad's affair partner when he was married to my mom. I was 8 years old when we found out, and how that happened was that dad brought Anne over to pick up his stuff because he wanted to move in with her, and neither of them cared at all that I was there. A few weeks later, my mom passed away in a car accident, and I moved in with my dad and Anne. But I did not look at either of them in a positive light, and I still don't, and I'm now 17 years old. Anne and I butted heads a lot over the years, and she would talk about deserving more respect, and I told her that she was just the lady my dad cheated on my mom with, and she'd never be more than that in my eyes. I told her I didn't respect her as a person or as a supposed family member. Dad tried to get me to see him more positively at first, but when he realized I'd asked the big questions like why he did that to mom and me, he just stopped trying. I always assumed that he found a new mistress, but didn't have any proof until a year and a half ago when I saw him with another woman. I said nothing and I carried on waiting for the day that she found out. There were times I wanted to rub it in her face so bad, but I just didn't do it. And I will admit it, I was definitely laughing behind her back. When Anne found out, she kicked dad out and I moved out with him. This was seen as a controversial choice because Anne wanted me to stay, and since everything went down, Anne has wanted me to visit her and wanted me to be with her and dad's kids. As a side note, I'm not close to the kids, and I don't really care about having a relationship with them. Last week, dad brought me by Anne's place to pick up more of his stuff and my stuff. Anne's family was there, and Anne and her family were scolding me for choosing dad over Anne and saying Anne deserved my support, that they couldn't believe I'd pick my dad's side over hers. But you know what? I said that I picked neither side. But Anne means nothing to me, so I'm not gonna do anything for her. Anne's mom told me that Anne was a victim. I told them that she cheated with a married man and shouldn't be shocked that he'd do the same to her because she is nothing special. They kept engaging with me and my dad was taking his sweet time. Anne decided to talk to me one-on-one and asked me to stand by her and support her and help her give the kids a good life and show that we're still a family. And when she said that, I just laughed in her face. And when I did that, Anne started to cry. Her family asked her about it and she told them that I had laughed. They called me disgusting and cruel and said I should be ashamed of treating someone in my family that way. Anne's sister sent me a few DMs before I locked down my socials, but she said I should apologize to Anne and I should be there for her now to make up for my reaction to her. She told me to be a better man and not some pathetic child who blames the women for stuff. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think Anne got exactly what she deserved, and I think your dad got exactly what he deserved. He literally cheated on his mom, and then Anne, who absolutely knew what was going on and who willingly tore your family apart, got a taste of her own medicine in a beautiful fashion. She realized that the original poster's dad is a scumbag through and through, and she had no business doing what she did in the first place. And you know what? If I went through that as a kid, and then I saw all of this go down with the additional baggage that Anne caused in your life, like literally, I think I would have laughed in her face as well. Because you know what? Anne got exactly what she deserved. And if she's unhappy with the result, then she should not have helped your dad cheat in the first place. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for slapping my father-in-law after he made some blatantly racist remarks about me? Because after our altercation, I have banned him from ever seeing our future child, and I'm still trying to figure out if I'm the jerk for making that decision. Here's what happened. So my cruel father-in-law insulted me and said some borderline racist things to me at my husband's birthday party. So let me explain the whole story. I'm a black female in my 20s, and I've been married to my husband, who is Asian, for about 4 years. We are very happy together, and I'm currently pregnant with our first child. So I've never really had a problem with any of my husband's family except for his father. His dad is a very old-fashioned man, so when his son came home with a black girl, he wasn't very happy. His mom and siblings welcomed me and were kind, and I was feeling pretty good about it until my father-in-law decided to say something. He said, "You know, women like that are very untrustworthy, Henry." And for the sake of the story, we'll call my husband Henry. That's not his real name. I was stunned at his words, and so was everyone else. I didn't want to say anything to make him dislike me even more, so I just kept quiet. But Henry had no plans of doing that, as he asked what did he mean by that, and his father just shrugged his shoulders. After that, the dinner was relatively peaceful, so the night ended and we went home. The next day, we get a call from his father saying that something from their house was missing and was implying that I had something to do with it. He said, "Ever since that woman was over, your mother's necklace has gone missing." Well, my husband and I assured him that I didn't take anything, but he just didn't believe me. Later on, they found out that my husband's sister had borrowed it and forgot to give it back. So my husband made him apologize, and even though he did, I could tell that it wasn't sincere. After a while, we got engaged, and we broke the news to his family. They were all happy for me, and my mother-in-law told me that she was so happy for us and couldn't think of a better woman for her son. When she said that, I teared up a little bit, and I thanked her for what she said, but my father-in-law was fuming. He yelled at me and my husband and said, "Are you out of your mind, Henry? She's terrible for you. Women like her are horrible." When he said that, I was appalled. How could he say something like that about me? My husband was absolutely furious. He said to him, "You are not going to talk to her like that, and you are going to apologize or you're not coming to our wedding." Now, after that, my father-in-law did apologize and started behaving, but only for a little bit. Fast forward, and the wedding was perfect, and surprisingly, my father-in-law didn't cause any problems, but that was probably because I had two brothers who were absolute tanks, and they were ready to show him to the door if he tried anything. At the reception, we were asked if we were thinking about having kids at the time, and we just said that we don't know, but my father-in-law said, "Oh, I pray that you don't." I turned to him and I asked him, "Excuse me?" He said that he has seen how people like me are as mothers, and I told him that anyone can be a good mother no matter what their race is. And when I said that, he just rolled his eyes and stayed quiet the entire evening. After a couple of months, we soon found out that I was pregnant, and we were overjoyed, and we were so happy to share the news with everyone. But we decided to wait until my husband's birthday to make it even more special. So on the day of his birthday, his family came over and we had a good time. His father was giving me dirty looks and was commenting on my weight, but I just ignored him. During the end of his party, my husband gave a big speech about how thankful he was for his life and his family, and to break the news. He said, "I'm so thankful for the future that me and my wife are going to make with our child." When he said that, everyone burst into excited yells and laughs as they were congratulating us and everything. But I could see that my father-in-law was seething with rage. It was then that he broke loose and yelled something that honestly blew my mind. He screamed out, "You are too young to be having kids. This is going to hurt you so bad. It's always your race making these bad decisions. Honestly, you should have gotten with a girl of your race, Henry." Now, when he said this, I was so angry that I couldn't hold it back anymore. So I slapped him across the face, literally making everybody go silent. I glared at my father-in-law and I told him, "I am done with you. I am done with your bigoted opinion. Before you start judging my race, get to know me just a bit more, and you will never see my grandchild ever again." He stood there speechless for a second and then he just left. My mother-in-law then apologized for his actions, and I told her not to apologize because it wasn't her fault. After that, my husband has stopped talking to his father, and I haven't heard from my father-in-law ever since. And I'm honestly so happy, but I still need to know, am I the jerk for slapping my father-in-law after the awful things that he said about me? No, you are definitely not the jerk, because your father-in-law is straight up racist, not borderline racist like you were trying to say in the beginning. He is just straight up racist towards you, and it is so unfair. Like, think about it. Here you have your son who finally found the love of his life, and instead of being happy for him and welcoming this person into your life, you make racist assumptions about them based off of their skin color. Like, if someone acts like that, they are the lowest form of life on planet Earth. And there really is no good excuse for that too, by the way. Someone making these kind of racist remarks and saying these things over and over again, regardless of how much the original poster has tried to show that yes, they are a good person. Like, that is so disturbing, and if I was in the original poster's shoes, I probably would have reacted the exact same way. And I also don't blame you for banning this guy from ever seeing your future kid, because if he's gonna be racist towards you, I can guarantee you he's gonna do the same thing to your kid. That would be awful for that child, and I would never allow that kind of hate in my kid's life. And also, how embarrassing for the mother-in-law as well as the other siblings who are like, yes, we do love you and we do accept you. Like, literally everybody else in the family is on board and they're so excited for you to be a part of the family, but the father-in-law is the only one who's hung up and acting like a complete moron. So no, you are definitely not the jerk. You did everything right, and I don't even blame you for slapping that guy in the face, because he definitely deserved it. He got away with saying that crap one too many times in my opinion, and it was about time that someone literally put him in his place, because hateful jerks like that should not be around you or your future kids ever. And I think it was smart to ban him preemptively so that he doesn't try to say that hateful garbage to your future kid. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.